The hryvnia is the monetary unit of Rus. It dates back to hryvnia, the neck golden ornament of the ancient Scythian rulers on the Ukrainian lands. In Rus, it was rhombus, or a stick-shaped silver ingot, which was used in trade. Its weight was about 160 to 200 grams of silver. In the days of Rus, the hryvnia was cut into pieces that served as exchange coins. These scraps were called rubles. Obviously, Muscovites mostly used scraps of the hryvnia. That's why the name ruble was firmly established there. This is how the name of their monetary unit, the ruble, appeared. And the word diengi, money, came from the Tartar-Mongolian word tenga or tenj, which meant silver coins. Tang was widespread in Central Asia during the time of the Golden Horde, or Tartary. Firstly, these were silver coins. Later, they were made of copper and bronze. A two-headed bird, one of the Golden Horde symbols, was depicted on rubles. Later, in the 15th century, the double-headed eagle started to resemble an emblem of Byzantium. At that time, the rulers of the Moscow Kingdom of the Golden Horde decided to take over not only the glory of Rus, but even become the successors of Rome, namely the Byzantine Empire, conquered by the Turks in that same century. For this reason, the Moscow king Ivan IV the Terrible was crowned as the first Tsar in the following 16th century. The modern Russian ruble is a combination of scraps from the Russian and Ukrainian silver hryvnia, one of the Golden Horde signs, the outskirts of which Moscovia was for a long time, and the Byzantine Empire's emblem with a double-headed eagle. During the Golden Age of Rus in the 10th and 11th centuries, Kiev kings minted silver and golden coins. The most famous coin is of King Volodymyr the Great, the coin with a trident, trizub. The trident has been the Ukrainian coat of arms, both 1,000 years ago and now. At the beginning of the 18th century, the Muscovites occupied the eastern part of Ukraine, burglarizing the estates of the Ukrainian nobility, the heads of the Cossacks, and plundering churches rich in gold and jewels. They took away everything to the Moscow kingdom. At that same time, the enormous wealth of Hetman Ivan Mazepa gave birth to legends about incredible hidden treasures. The legend about the fabulous treasures of Hetman Pavlo Polobotko, which were allegedly taken for safekeeping in the Bank of Great Britain and still remain there, is still alive. But attempts of Moscow Tsar Peter I to find them were unsuccessful. He even tormented Pavlo Polobotko to death in prison, but never found out the truth. Muscovites faced the necessity of material confirmation of their fantasies, as they didn't have their own great history and rewrote it on the basis of the history of Rus. The 19th century, the era of development of science and archaeology in Europe, has sparked a significant interest of the Russian Empire in Scythian gold and historical artifacts from mounds on the Ukraine's territory. Muscovites collected historical and cultural treasures from the times of Scythians and Sarmatians into the time of Rus throughout Ukraine. These stolen things were taken to St. Petersburg and Moscow. The tradition of robberies was preserved throughout the existence of the Russian Empire and especially intensified in the USSR in the 1920s and 30s, continuing until the collapse of the USSR. Cossack banners and clay nodes, which are carefully hidden in Russian museums as trophies, are of significant historical value. The Moscow authorities searched and forfeited everything related to Ivan Mazepa's name with an exceptional accuracy. Since the occupation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, the Russians have been actively excavating the peninsula in search of treasures and taking them to Russia. Right after Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, Moscow search expeditions were dispatched to the occupied territories, looting Ukrainian museums and warehouses and taking away all historical and cultural treasures. Since 2014, a lawsuit between Russia and Ukraine regarding the right to property of Scythian gold from the Crimean collection has been ongoing in the Netherlands. This proves the importance of historical artifacts. Why has Russia been stealing Ukrainian historical values for centuries? With the help of treasures, they try to confirm the rightful succession of Moscovia, now Russia, to the history and lands of Rus and bygone nations, such as Scythians, Sarmatians, Slavs, and others. But in fact, these are the values of the Ukrainians' ancestors who have been living on the territory of modern Ukraine for centuries. The Muscovites did not limit themselves to stealing jewels, They even exported the skeletons of skulls and Rus kings and nobles. Then a story was made up that the burials of Russian kings were found somewhere in the fictional Novgorod, far from Kiev or Chernihiv, where they actually lived and were buried. For many years, there has existed a black market for valuables found by black and white archaeologists. Russia has been actively buying Ukrainian antiquities, paying a lot of money and smuggling them directly to Russia across the border or through third countries. There, the treasures are described as if being found in Russia and then exhibited in museums. All these thefts are mostly done in order to prove the whole world and the Russians the eternal greatness of Russia and its succession to the Scythians and medieval Rus Ukraine. Every authoritarian state, especially an empire, is of a centralized management. The power is concentrated in the capital, so it's obvious that all incomes go there as well. In the USSR, a significant part of people's savings was kept, as it was said in a book, in the savings bank. The center of this bank, the only one in the Union, was of course situated in Moscow. All the money from the 15 controlled republics of the Soviet Union was in Moscow as well. As of January 1, 1991, the total amount of funds accumulated and written off in Ukraine during 1922 to 1990 wrought 84.3 billion rubles. This corresponded to the remaining deposits of the Ukrainian population. Today, considering inflation, the amount of funds is about 314 billion US dollars. According to the data of the USSR Savings Bank, out of the whole amount of the funds, 82.9 billion rubles were transferred to the Union State Bank in Moscow and 1.4 billion rubles to the USSR Ministry of Finance. As a result, the first operational working day in 1991 started with a zero balance on the correspondent account of the USSR Savings Bank in Ukraine. That means that all funds saved up by Ukrainian citizens were simply stolen and transferred to Russia, leaving no trace while disappearing. And the obligations for this money remained after independent Ukraine. The total number of defrauded depositors is about 12 million people. A lot of people were left penniless at the beginning of the wild 90s. From 1997 to 2012, Ukraine paid off part of the debt to depositors at a very low rate. Then people received only a small part of their savings. The time will come when Russia will pay off its robberies. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, click the like button, and subscribe to our channel.